Good morning. Hope everyone is having a good day today. For those of you who are celebrating and have given your time and service in the military, thank you for all of that. I know I had 6 brothers who served in the military, uncles, cousins, relatives, and so I have a little idea of what that means, and so thank you for that service. And hopefully today is a good reminder of how much that means to all of us. So Sandra and Lynn, good morning. I hope all is well with you guys. We're starting a new project today. And again, as always, it's not a total project. It's individual projects each week. And so please pop into the chat box. Let me know your thoughts. It's good to know what you're thinking and anything else that may inspire me for the weeks to come. Because with me, nothing is ever in stone, if you will. Good morning, Ellen, Carol, Roxanne, Hillary, Cheryl, and Carolyn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And happy Saturday to all of you, and Veterans Day as well. So, the what we're coming up to be doing in the coming weeks up till Christmas is that I have decided to find some blocks that pertain to the holidays, and mostly Christmas leading up to that, even though there will be a variety of things. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you different techniques, different things, different blocks, how to put them together, etc., and give you ideas on gifts for Christmas or to give for the holidays. And so whatever holiday that it is that you celebrate. So I'm going to start today with paper piecing tree. But this tree is going to take on a little bit more than just paper piecing, because I want to share with you how to go about putting, your own block together, drawing it out, and, figuring out for this. So one thing is that each block can be anything you want, from a table runner to a placemat to a pot holder to the side of a bag, whatever it is that you want, or for wrapping a gift in. It's wonderful to create a drawstring bag or something and then put their gift in that. So it's really 2 gifts in one. Or the blocks will be enough if you coordinate them so that you can finish with a quilt. A sampler type quilt at the end of it too, if you so desire. So it's really up to you. We're just going to have some fun and play with all of this. And so, first of all, I want to share with you some of the fabrics that I'm using. The ladies at the Quilt Show shop put together and coordinated some fabrics for me to play with while I'm doing this. So this is a Christmas color theme that I generally don't work with. So this is going to be a little bit fun to have with that. And then they threw also these in that can also be coordinated with the others. Cute little birds on these birch trees and stuff. And so we'll see how that goes with what we're doing and how that's going to go. But right now I'm going to put that aside over there. And I want to talk a little bit about, we're gonna create a pattern. This is the one I did. It's quite simple. And I decided that I would create blocks that would fit into either 6, 8, 4, 12 sizes, so that if you decide to take these blocks and put them into a sampler, that they would all fit and coordinate together, and we could make that work pretty easily. So this one is a 6 by 8, and I just randomly drew some angles on there, a very simple tree, and this could easily be sewn truly without paper piecing, but I want to show you what you could do if, depending on what the tree looks like that you're going to make. So first of all, I want to share with you some other possibilities for creating, a tree like this and things that you can do with it. And I'll probably wrap that around again at the end for people who come in a little bit later. So I've got this other one that I played with, and wanting you to see that with all of this, if you're going to use this as a template, then you need to add that 1/4 inch seam around. And so for a template, if you create horizontal stripes, for example, like the sweater I have on, you can sew a block of stripes together, use this as a template, put it over, cut it out using the extra 1/4 inch seam so that it's going to fit into your side blocks. And of course you can use the angle ruler from Quilter Select or any of the others to create these side panels to the Christmas tree. So then there's crumb quilting. We talked about that, weeks back, about creating, crumb quilting, all these little scraps that we have. And if you have, Christmas fabric laying around, you could crumb quilt it and create a Christmas tree like that. The angled like I did, but you could create more angles in it. For example, go back and cut that side off and have it going both ways. You can have it as large, or I did it this way simply for time's sake, or just a solid piece of pretty fabric that you want to use in there. The other thing, if you wanted to create an entire tree quilt, you could use all of these ideas and more that you come up with in the quilt so that the trees all look a little bit different. You could create them different sizes, tall and skinny, short and fat, in between, anything, as long as they would fit in with whatever size that you want to create your blocks and your quilts with. So just so that you know what I did here, these this was a 1 inch, these are 2.5 on each side. I made an 8-inch side, a 6-inch top, and then I found the center up here, and I simply drew the angles to that side. So that's what I'd like to do, just to show you how easy that can be. I'm going to move my fabrics to the side. I like to use the Carol Dove paper. It's wonderful. It goes through most printers quite easily. It doesn't jam. I have not experienced any jamming. I've used it on several different types of printers. So, and it tears beautifully, and it's more like a cloth than it is a paper. And so I just, made my life really simple. And since I was going 6 by 8, I simply centered this in my paper. And let me get this into the screen so you can see a little bit of what I am trying to accomplish here. And I think I've got most of it. I just simply went 6 by 8. All right. Whoops. Sorry about that. I hit my camera. And simply turned it around and lined it up on those lines I already created. And again, went 6 by 8. So, nothing overly crazy. And then over here, I, took this at about 2.5 or 1.5 and by 2.5. So I am simply going to line that up on the bottom. Find my center, which would be 3 inches. And take that to 2.5 so that I have seam allowance on both sides. So 2.5, go over 1 inch. Do that, and then again I want to find my center up here. So at 3 inches, let me make sure I've got that into the screen. And then I simply took my ruler and went from this corner to the center up here. And this is a very simple, block to put together like this. And then in here, I just laid my ruler down and started making some angles, and I didn't pay a ton of attention to what I was doing per se. I just made some angles. Okay, you can do the same. You can create whatever it is that you want to create in there. And like those other ideas that I gave you, the crumb quilting, stripes, going either both horizontally and vertically, a solid, any of those kinds of ideas for that. Let me see if there's any questions. The quilt show, are those rulers ever on sale? Yes, they are. And they run sales from time to time. So keep your eye open for that. And they usually put it in the newsletter. And if you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, do that. There's a lot of information, lots of free stuff on the quilt show for that. And yes, the rulers do go on sale. All right, All right, I don't see any other questions, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to use a glue stick for putting on that first piece. I've already cut my pieces for my tree, but I want to tell you how I went about doing that. When I get ready to create a block, I take the widest part and go, at least a little bit more than a 1/4 inch pass on both sides, and I look at both the length. So here it's about 4.5, and the width is about 3.5. So I usually add an inch to whatever I have cut there, so that I have enough. Now I could cut it to the shape of the piece and all of that, but I usually do rectangles to make it happen. And so I would add an inch to that 4.5 and 3.5, so it'd be 5.5 by 4.5. And then I know that I have enough that it's going to make for the seam allowance and get me through all of that. Now with paper piecing, if you're not familiar with it, the first piece that you put down is the only piece that's going to be right side up. I drew this in ink so that it showed up a little bit better on camera, but I would not recommend using ink for that, because sometimes if you get going too quickly, the ink will come off on your fabric, and especially if you have white fabric. So you put the fabric on the back side of your and as you can see, I'm going to get this in the light, you can see through this paper. And especially, if you're printing it off on your printer, the it really shows up quite well. So I'm going to take my first piece, which is going to be the stump of my tree, and I am going to put some glue stick down, and you can see that, and then put my, and I have enough room on all sides that I am, and let me see if I can get the angle here, that I know that I'm a 1/4 inch over, I'm a 1/4 inch here, and on both sides of this paper I am a 1/4 of an inch beyond that. So that's the only piece that I really need to glue stick down, because now I'm going to go to my machine, turn my paper over, and just to anchor this, I'm going to sew, you know, on this piece. The other thing that I like to do is once I have a piece down, I will come back and I use, you know, a piece of junk mail or whatever you might have laying around, and I'll go to the next number, which is 2, and use my 1/4 inch, and I was using it and playing with it yesterday, and I didn't bring it back to my table, so I'll go ahead and use my regular ruler for right now. It's not what I like to do, because the 1/4 inch ruler is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm just not seeing it laying there. So I would come back and trim it, but look at how perfectly I laid that. Unbelievable. All right, so then what I would do at this point is that I have made a mark. I have trimmed it so that now when I put my next piece on, all I have to do is lay that directly on there, flip it over, and normally I don't have that. So you would sew between the 1 and the 2, because the 1 is where you are and 2 is where you're basically headed. I will start usually a point after, and I want to talk a little bit about the stitch length, because that's always a, you know, how small should we go with stitch length, all of that. What I do, I don't change my stitch length, because number one, if I have to take it out, which I do from time to time, with very tiny, it really rips up the paper. I usually lose that pattern. I don't find it falling out. I have a way to take this out that I think makes it easier to get the paper out. And now you can use these water pens and just run a drop of water on, and the paper just falls off. And so I really don't, and I don't yank on my paper, that type of thing. So I don't necessarily do that. I don't shorten my stitch, but that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to press my seams in, press that back to the side. Now I'm going to go and do the same thing on this side. I'm going to get my card, and I put it right up. I don't cover the line, so I get a little bit more exact with that. And I'm going to pull that down just a bit. I should go and find my 1/4 inch, because a 1/4 inch ruler with a little ridge on it is so much better than using your ruler. But if you don't have one, obviously the ruler works just fine. So now I can come back, I can lay this piece um, right on top of there. I don't have to look, you know, hold my paper up, look at it, do any of that kind of thing. And take this back over to the sewing machine, lay it in. And now I've sewn, and obviously this would be an easy piece just to sew normally on there without any trouble. So I'm going to set my seam, flip that back, press that. All right. Now the next one that I am going to do, and this one, one would probably like a little bit larger piece of cardboard, but it's going to work just fine. And again, with the ruler, giving yourself that 1/4 inch along the side and trimming that off. All right, so I've got that trimmed, and now my next piece that I'm going to put on, I can, you know, because I have that 1/4 inch seam line, and I'm going to go a little bit closer to that side because I didn't get that exactly even, and bring that to the sewing machine. And I'm really not backstitching because on this machine I have the ability to, it's locking in, I set it so that it's locking in the seams as I begin and as I finish. So I'm not having to backstitch or anything. But if your machine doesn't have that and you need to backstitch, then you'll want to do that. So then I'm going to, again, set my seam. Let me press that. All right. So that was piece number 4 on there. And before I go to the next one, I want to make sure that I don't have any you know what? BN, you are so correct. I should be sewing on the printed side of the line. And that was, and you guys are all correct. And let me go back, and what I'm going to do, oh, I can't believe I just did that. I really can't believe I just did that. I'm going to go back and draw this so that the rest of it, and I can't do that. So let me go to the one that I drew with all of you. But I don't have the, I cannot believe I did that. You guys, thank you for, I don't know what I was thinking. It felt awkward, but I just thought it was because I was on camera. And this might be interesting because I've already trimmed and cut it, so so I'm just, and you know, this is one of those things, maybe I should have just said I did it on purpose so you could see how easy it was to get it out of the, to tear it from the paper without it being, all right. See, those of you who know what you're doing, And since this is live, I can't go back and delete and edit that out. And if I had probably been watching my phone, Kristen would have told me a long time ago, and I wouldn't have gotten this far. Because Kristen is very good about that. All right. So let's just go back to this section. And now I am going to put a little bit of I think I've got that where it's supposed to be. Okay, Mary, thank you for saying that. It is in the right spot because I trimmed it. You are correct, and you guys are all correct in all of that. So. And you are always so kind. I just can't believe how kind you guys usually are. So I'm going to sew that last piece real quick here. Good thing I hadn't gone too far. When I get talking, you know, I've always said before, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So now I'm going to press that up. All right. So now we have between 4 and 5 to go. And so I'm going to lay that right there. And trim that off. And if I'm still not doing it right, you know, between Kristen and you guys, let me know. I think it would have come out fine whichever way I had, you know, either way, because I am trimming. It shouldn't have been a problem. And let me get back to my fabrics. And now that I'm breathing right again, alrighty. See, I'm still slightly flustered, doing this all wrong. So again, once I have sewn, then I press this back And I just use any card, or slightly thin, but has this junk mail stuff works really well for that. So then I want to get my add a quarter ruler, or here I'm using my regular ruler, to show you that either way it works. It just holds itself up a little bit better with the 1/4 inch ruler, because it stops it. And this one now comes in a little bit differently, so I want to make sure that I am really getting my pieces, and so I'm going to hold it up just to make sure I'm a 1/4 inch on either side, because it's coming to the point of that piece. And all right. So now I want to, get this side on, and bending that back. I should have bent it the other way. And again, my 1/4 inch. These rulers are really nice for this, because they don't move around on you. So trim that all off. And if you're going to think about creating the center is crumb quilt, all this stuff that I'm cutting off would make for a very wonderful crumb for the inside of that, and saving some of that fabric, because there is waste when it comes to, so I'm making sure that here I've got a 1/4 inch past both of those, turning that over. Sink your seams. That up. And now we go to the other side. And I have, where I've gone over a little bit, that it just falls back, it tears off of that side. So as I said, this paper makes it really, nice for that. I mean, you can use other papers and things, but I really like the Carol Doak paper, because it's got that cotton in it a little bit, and what it's made of is just really nice. So I recommend it. Alrighty. And once more. Now, the last thing that you would do is you're going to trim around the entire block and add that 1/4 inch seam allowance, so that if you choose to sew it into a quilt or placemat, or add anything to it, that you have you know, your seam allowance around the block. And by doing, you know, a piece like this first, you know, you're going to have all that crumb at the end. And with my making a mistake there, I've got a little bit too close on this side. So, oh, that was a 1/2 inch. No wonder it was a little close. Okie doke. And there you have your block. All right. And so that would be, you know, one block out of many for, you know, a total tree quilt. And I think for me, for Christmas, the trees, I don't know, I'm drawn to the trees, and I almost thought about, you know, creating all the different trees we could make, but I decided I wanted to, you know, work with you along with some other patterns and ideas for that. So you have your 1/4 inch seam up there, you have your 1/4 inch seam on each side down here. It's going to fit into that really nicely with that. So in spite of the mistakes, and I so apologize for that, and I think I agree, it's a happy tree. Thank you. Somebody said something about, one thing about the freezer paper method, it taught me to fold all the lines first so that the placement on the back was much easier. You know, I have taught the freezer paper method. You can also use that same method with the, you know, any paper, folding it back, and instead of you know, sewing directly on the line, you would fold the paper back and sew right along the edge, so that you're actually not sewing through the paper. But I want to show you a couple of things that I do that make this a little bit easier. And I just had my seam ripper, as you know, and you know, how do things get lost when they're right here in front of you? But my seam ripper is MIA at the moment. What I like to do to get this paper off is I'll use the back side of my seam ripper, and I'll just run it straight down on the side of the seam, and then when I you know, take this off, the paper just basically falls away. The other thing is using a little bit of water, running a bit of water down that seam line with one of these art pens, water pens, and it comes off. You know, but truly with the Carol Doe paper, it comes off even without doing any of those things. It just really comes off wonderfully. And that's really why I love this paper. And as you know, I did not shorten or, you know, my stitch length at all. And so the paper is now off of there. It's done. And I have my tree. All right. And any other. I want to stop and look at that and make sure that I don't have any other. What is the orange mat on your sewing machines? Looks like a great size. It is called a Sew Steady small grid glider. And what I like about it is, if I'll just bring the camera back over here. What I really like about it are these 30, 45, and 60 degree angles that are here. You have your 1/4 inch on either side. You line this up with your point. So for half square triangles, for any of these 30, 60, 45 degree angles, I can just run my points along those, and I don't have to do all the marking. This has just been a wonderful time saver for me. And I know I've talked about it a number of times because I'm not necessarily a person who likes a ton of gadgets, but this has proven its worth and the expense of it over and over again. And they do sell it in the quilt store shop. So removing that, getting trees. The other thing, you could do a whole quilt of tree blocks, and every now and then throw in just a square or something. The other thing is that because this is 8 inches, you could make 4-inch tree blocks and run them side by side and have different type of trees, have tall and skinny ones, and have them run a row along, put sashing in between, create your own fun forest, if you will, for that. So next week we'll have another block for you. I will share, tips and stuff and how to do it wrong, because I seem to do that on camera fairly frequently. So I can show you how to do it wrong so that we can make it right again, like today. And we'll have another block. And again, you can either do a sampler. This would be so easy to put into a placemat by extending, the side and having this to the right side, putting a border around it, one of these pretty fabrics that coordinates with it, and create a set of placemats. One thing that I very much like to do, and it's on my mind simply because my daughter is getting married and in January, so that is, I like to give holiday placemats as a wedding gift. And so I will make, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, 4th of July, Thanksgiving holiday mats, and give that as a wedding gift. And so this would make a really nice gift for that. A mug rug, absolutely, Judy. So let your mind just go, and you could create whatever you wanted to, or maybe you just learned, something today with that, and we'll keep going. And so between now and Christmas time, we're going to be making a lot of holiday blocks. And so I look forward to working with you on that. And you guys all have a great week. And just enjoy all the preparations that's coming up for the holidays, and take time for yourself and try not to stress too much. So blessings on